Godzilla has existed for almost 60 years by this point, 56 at the moment, and had gone through various changes throughout his entire movie career, from being a monster, to being a children's superhero, to being technically an anti-hero, and going back to his roots as a superhero. And with Godzilla vs. Kong coming out this year, I believe this summer, I can't help but go back and look at one film that I have yet to have seen. Not because it's bad by any means necessary, but because I always forget that it actually is there, and prominently it's been a film that I did want to see for the longest time. Godzilla in Japanese means God incarnate, which is a very terrifying thought to think of when you really stop and think about it. God incarnate. Should be terrifying, right? Well, if God incarnate is terrifying, then this motherfucker is goddamn Hannibal Lecter. Hello and welcome to Rage Universe Movie Reviews. I'm your host, Rage Universe, and when I'm not going around being a god of destruction, I mean, let's face it, you've never seen my god of destruction and noteworthy causes of power, have you? I'm here in my own little universe reviewing movies. Shin Godzilla was released to the world in 2019, having a very limited release. I believe it was only released in showed in selected theaters and also had a worldwide renunciation to the world. Now, a lot of people say that this is a great reboot of the original franchise and bringing back the monster's original roots of being a horror franchise. And, well, this also was brought to us by the creator behind Neon Genesis Evangelion. So, was this movie a worthy successor to basically try to reboot the Godzilla franchise? Well, let me tell you, this film is not bad by any means necessary, but oh dear God, was it fucking boring as hell. The plot. A mysterious organism has appeared in Japan. Japan is worried about what is going on. What is this monster? What does it mean? And most importantly, what does it want? The organism comes alive. It basically evolves. It becomes a life form, wanting to kill all that's worthy and is in its way. And it's not long before it becomes the God incarnate itself, Godzilla, ready to exterminate all of humanity with nothing standing in its way. As Japan must unite with the entire rest of the world in order to save their country and stop this threatening nemesis once and for all. Now, on paper, Shin Godzilla did sound like a unique idea, mostly trying to have Japan trying to figure out what exactly that they can do with this monster, because in this movie, there is no Dr. Serizawa. There are a lot of characters in this film, which is why, pretty much for the character thing, I'm mostly going to focus on talking about Godzilla and only two characters, because if I focus on all of them, I'd be here all day talking about this one, this one, this one, this one. There are a lot of characters that are introduced in this movie. But aside from that, the plot of the movie does sound good on paper, but unfortunately on screen, it's not that well executed. There are way too many scenes where characters are talking about what to do about the monster, and this is the point of being realistic for a Godzilla movie, which I don't mind, but there are just way too many people that are just talking about how to deal with the monster instead of officially dealing with the monster. And also, Godzilla only becomes active basically about 4 times throughout the entire film, and the film is a little over 2 hours. Yeah, Godzilla is not that prominent in this movie, so it got the original movie got this one beat, definitely by no standards. But Godzilla does actually have the unique premise that I actually do like of the film, is that Godzilla is an organism that evolves or mutates and becomes stronger as it goes. And the way that they describe him in this film as being this mass weapon of biological destruction was actually pretty damn good, and something that I really do like. There are one of the scenes I actually do like with the humans is when they're talking about two choices: freezing Godzilla by using CO2 or oxygen or whatever, or using thermonuclear weaponry. And it becomes a giant clusterfuck of what do we do? Do we use the weapon, or do we destroy God, or do we destroy him, using cold? This actually was very decent for the film to use because you gotta admit, Japan had already seen destruction of the giant bomb dropping on Hiroshima fucking years ago. So it really does come to the point of, do we want to suffer this again, or do we want a better option? And what was worse is that the United States was saying fucking use the thermonuclear while Japan wanted to use the coolant system and basically super freeze Godzilla. It becomes very, very relevant of what goes on nowadays, where yes, there are lots of meetings taking place on how to handle certain situations, which really I did enjoy that. But unfortunately, there's not too many iconic moments in this film. Godzilla is terrifying, yes, but unlike the 1954 film, there's not too many scenes where it really shows that Godzilla is the driving force of destruction, because he's barely in this movie, even though he's on the name of the DVD poster and his name is said throughout this movie. Although I do like that they admit that Gojira in Japan is God incarnate, and Godzilla in this film definitely is a God incarnate. The characters. As I already stated, there are a lot of characters in Shin Godzilla, a lot that we have to focus on, but I'm just gonna focus on just three in this movie. The first I'd like to spotlight is Rando Yaguchi, a young man who is basically brought into the point of his life and is becoming a worldwide politician in Japan. Rando is honestly an interesting character of the film and becomes the main character that you want to focus on throughout the entire majority of this film, and that's to say that's not a bad thing because he's pretty interesting. His counterpart becomes a young woman named Anaka Patterson. Miss Patterson is a great solution to Rando because she is nothing like him. She's a Japanese American, she's smart, she's sophisticated, and she's quite damn impressively very good looking and also smart as balls compared to Rando. And then in this movie, there is the big G himself, Godzilla, to focus on, and my god is this guy terrifying throughout the majority of this movie. But because Godzilla is a different organism compared to the original movies, it makes him all the more terrifying when he starts evolving and he starts mutating into even more further forms. Things are especially made worse later when Godzilla gets his atomic breath and ends up using it to fucking annihilate Japan. Shin Godzilla is really a god incarnate. He shows off just how destructive and how fucking annihilation he is. If you don't believe that this version of Godzilla is a god incarnate, I beg you to differ to watch this movie again because he really is a goddamn god incarnate. In this film alone, Godzilla really does reign supreme, and he really does show off who is the god incarnate and why he should never be messed with. Final thoughts. Shin Godzilla is really a damn unique film. It's really impressive by what it tried to show off, but unfortunately, it is really boring and moves at a snail's pace. Now, to be fair, I did go into this movie with an open mind, and I really wanted to accept it for what it is, and I do. But unfortunately, if Shin Godzilla was not really about the main characters, because some of them are not as interesting, and a lot of the discussions that they have is just plain boring, and really try to focus on Japan trying to deal with the monster that they do during, I believe, the second half of the film mostly, it becomes pretty damn decent. And also, I really did like the scene where they have civilians in a line of fire to Godzilla, and they all repeat the one line of dialogue: "There's civilians in range, do we fire?" And that is a really damn good moment. I was expecting the Japanese Prime Minister to go, "Eliminate them," and it To my surprise, he didn't. He became a goddamn hero during that circumstance, looking at a monster straight in the eye and saying, I can't damage the good civilians of our country. So, we're going to ignore him and pretend that he just does not exist and save the civilians. Did civilians die in this movie? Well, for certainly I can't say, because they do copy a scene from the original movie where people are in the hospital injured, becoming relevant, people that are homeless, that kind of thing. You don't have that very infamous scene from the original after Godzilla attacks and everybody is defeated, broken, and also children are crying because they can't find their parents. That scene is not replicated. However, they pull a Pacific Rim and have everybody going into basically these shelters. So, Shin Godzilla was a very decent film, but unfortunately for me, it got way too boring and a little bit repetitive sometimes when we kept focusing on the characters a lot more than the monster who should be the main focus of the film. I don't mind it trying to be realistic and trying to do something different, yes, but unfortunately, it still does fall flat than where I wanted it to be. Vinyl pop rating. Shin Godzilla, in all honesty, was a very decent and mostly surprising film, taking the monster in a new way, while giving him some unique background and also taking the formula from the original film and changing it. The one thing I can say is that I love that they included the infamous Akira Ufukabe Godzilla score, with some minor changing to make it a little bit more sinister and haunting, which I honestly didn't mind. But if you want to talk about a movie that really captured Godzilla's horror ranks, Shin Godzilla is not one of those films. In fact, not the original, but Godzilla 2000 has a more sinister opening in introducing Godzilla than this film. Yeah, Godzilla 2000 opens up with Godzilla destroying Japan. Very much a sinister sight. But with Shin Godzilla, he doesn't necessarily appear until, well, roughly the 20-minute mark. Then he reappears an hour later. Then we don't get to see him ever again until towards the end of the film. Yeah, he doesn't make that many appearances throughout the entire film. But again, I don't mind it being about the characters, but what's unfortunate is that the 1954 classic had more interesting characters than this film has. I do like that they made a joke or a hint to the oxygen destroyer, but it really does not come off as really great. The 1954 film had characters that you really care about and want to see survive. Aside from Gayushi and also Anaka, there's not too many characters that you really care about in this film. And even for the main character, Godzilla, you will question where is he more times than you'd like to admit. And that's why my vinyl pop rating of Shin Godzilla will have to be a Nightcrawler. Guys, as always, thank you very much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And join me at Twitter in the link in the description down below. And tell me if you saw Shin Godzilla, what is it your favorite Godzilla movie, or do you have a different favorite? Let me know. And I don't mean, like, well, yes, in general, like just favorite movie, but also I'd like to hear it from you guys. What is your favorite incarnation of the character? Do you like the 2014 incarnation? Do you like the 1954 version, the 1985 version? Do you like Godzilla 2000, or are you a fan of Shin Godzilla and you're not very happy with my criticism of the film? Either way, let me know. But just remember, this is just my review. It's just how I feel about the film. So if the script would change and if it wasn't really about all the humans, even though it was, yes, a real life scenario, but if it wasn't so much about the humanistic characters, or if they made the characters more interesting rather than boring, this film would have definitely been on a higher pick for me. But unfortunately, it just couldn't help its rating. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on the next Lazy Universe movie review.